So in this last chapter for this project, we're going to talk about rendering. Now, rendering, like just about everything else in Maya, is a gigantic topic that we could spend an entire course on. We're just going to set some basic rendering parameters in this video. In the other videos, we're going to talk about a number of the other tools and utilities and whatnot that you have available in the rendering system, just to try to make sure your rendering looks the way you want it. And you know, there's more we can do and more we will do later on, but you just take this a little bit at a time as you need it and go from there. So here we go. The first thing we need to do, of course, is launch Maya if it's not already launched. Do it from the desktop so we get our background changes all showing up. And there it is. So we'll set our project. So File, Set Project, and it's our little squishy project, Set. And now we need to open the scene. So File, Open Scene, second choice right here, and My Squishy, and we'll open that. And there it is. Looks all good. Okay, so now let's set some render parameters here. So the first thing we want to do is, make sure that we're using the Maya software renderer. Okay, that's fine. And then on the Common tab here, next thing shows you where the animation or frames are going to be set and what frames are going to be rendered. Okay, now we'll change our or set our file output type, and remember you'll have a number of different settings here. You know, what you use is going to depend on where this is going. I'm just going to use this Maya IFF internal image format just for now. Okay, that's good. And now we have this, what do the frame names look like? And I'm setting this as frame.frameNumber.extension. And you see there's all kinds of other choices. And these will be shown up here in our output area. So it shows us what it's going to look like, what the name is going to look like. We have another thing here right below it called frame padding, and that's how many leading zeros get put on that number. So our first frame right now is going to be the mysquishy.1.iff. If we set this number higher, say to 3, then it would turn it into a 3-digit number, and it would pad zeros. So it would be mysquishy.001.iff, and sometimes that's important. So just move along here. Our frame range, we want to render out the 23 frames. So there we go. By frame, leave that at 1 so we get all 23. See, that's changed now. Okay, the next setting here, this is the most common mistake that's made in rendering, and by default this is going to be sitting at the perspective window, and we want to make sure we change this to camera 1 or whatever camera you want to render from. So that's a big gotcha right there. Okay, let's move along. We've got our size, our 640 by 480. Again, a bazillion presets available, but we'll leave it there, and you can even set your own width and height if you want, and other settings here. And render options, we need to look at that, and here we have our parameter. We spent all that time in the last chapter setting up our main key light, our fill light, our backlight, and all. And Maya, when you don't set up any lights, it lights the scene with this default light. So we want to uncheck this. So we're just lighting from the lights we created. Okay, so that's it for the first tab. So let's move on to the second tab and come in here. Just going to set a couple things here. This anti-aliasing, again, this had to do with sharp edges on objects when they transition from one object to another, or the background. The resolution is going to mean that you've got fairly large blocks from one to the next, and anti-aliasing softens those edges, makes them look smoother and more realistic generally. Causes a little bit of extra processing to need to be done, so it takes some time, but you know, it's something you have to play with and get comfortable with the setting you want. We're just going to leave it on high quality for the moment, and then we'll come down here to next thing we want to look at is our ray tracing quality. Now we need this in particular to get the reflection of the checkerboard into the bottom half of the sphere, and actually the sphere is going to be reflected in the checkerboard as well. So to do that, we have to turn on ray tracing, which more or less is a thing that follows the bouncing of the photons, the virtual photons, as they travel between the light and the camera. So we'll come in here and we'll turn on ray tracing. Now we have three different parameters here. First one is reflection, that's the one we need. Next one is refraction. We don't really have anything that's going to rely on refraction very much. Refraction is the bending of light through transparent objects like glass or water. And the next one is shadows. We're going to set this up a little bit. Probably don't absolutely have to, but there it is. That's good. We've got one more parameter we're going to set here, and that's motion blur. Okay, we're going to turn that on. Motion blur has to do with sort of back in the olden days when we were doing film before we had any of this virtual 3D. It took a certain amount of time for an exposure to appear on film, and the object, if it moved during that time, would appear to be blurred. We say, gee, I would think that one of the great things about the modern 3D virtual world is we could just do away with that, and we absolutely can, and leave this turned off and you will completely do away with it. What people found, however, was that the viewers actually, the way your mind puts these things together, if there's motion blur in moving objects, it looks better. Part of that has to do with something called persistence of vision. Part of it has to do with just what we're used to seeing, and part of it has to do with the fact that, you know, it's just going to make the object look like it's in motion in all kinds of intangible ways. So anyway, it's generally good to turn that on. There's some other settings here, and you know, you can play with those, but just for now we're just going to turn it on, and you'll see what that looks like in the individual frames. So that's it. Don't really need to deal with any more of that. Don't need any other settings for right now, so we'll close this and we'll save our scene and get our little message and continue, and we'll see you in the next video.